So today I'm having a conversation with another amazing lady in the real estate investing space. When I was at a national conference a few years back, I kept hearing her name. So Megan McCrea bought her first home at the age of 19 and she sold it shortly after and made $100,000. So she decided to buy another home and that home didn't go so well for her. So she put in a lot of effort and time, but to only break even. So that kind of shied Megan away from investing in real estate or buying more properties. But things all changed when she got laid off from her corporate job. And that caused her to want to create her own destiny. So today she shares with you guys, the audience, on how she now owns 6 short-term rentals and what she does to them and how she really make an impact on this community. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to our conversation. And also, I want to send a big thank you to our supporters for leaving us review. And if you find value in this show, please rate us, review us, and share with a friend. That will help spread the words and inspire others. Now, let's get to the intro. Hey ballers, welcome to episode 119. With me is Megan McCrea from the Hospitality Creator. Hey Megan, thanks for being here today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fabulous.
You're
I'm
always
trying to
fabulous.
thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to hire a manager, assistant manager right now, and it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been dealing with the same thing with cleaning and cleaners and hiring that. So I feel, yeah, I think we're all challenged with that right now.
Yeah, I know we've trying to schedule this for a while. Like
Yes.
first it was the baby, and then you had
Yes.
some some unexpected situations, and we can talk about that in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But let's start with, can you give us the audience maybe a quick introductions of
Sure.
your name, who you are?
All right, absolutely. Well, I'm Megan McCrea, and I am a short-term rental owner and manage my own properties. So I don't manage for other people, but all of the properties that we own, I manage them myself for the most part, although I have a team now, which is awesome. And I also have a business helping other owners set up their short-term rentals and make them profitable. So essentially I do coaching, I do design, and basically anything from stocking toilet paper in a new short-term rental to making it look pretty. And then in addition to that, I am the president of the Nashville Area Short-Term Rental Association, or NASTRA. So pretty much live and breathe short-term rentals these days, although I'm just now getting back into that after about a 5, 6 month maternity leave.
Yeah, so that and the new
Yeah.
baby. How do you have time, girl?
Well, I haven't eased back into everything yet. I'm slowly working that out. And one of the best things that I did was I have a friend who is also a short-term rental property manager. And her partner took over my rentals while I had the baby. So I didn't have to do or think about a thing. And now that I'm back, one of the things we did was we sat down and talked about sort of her forte and my forte. And, my background before short-term rentals was marketing and advertising. And so I like the guest part and, marketing part. And she's really strong at operations. So they have actually continued to handle all of my, what we're calling our physical stuff or operations. So they're doing the quality checks at the properties, restocking things, coordinating with the cleaning team, which has just really been a huge weight off of my shoulders. So that's, I should say, how I'm doing it all is not doing it all right now.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think being a mom also really makes you better at time management.
Yes, it's amazing what I can get done in a 2 hour nap now.
That's right. Yeah. So let's talk about, I mean, you made some really brave choices, in my opinion. So maybe let's go back to that first brave decision that you made when you bought your first home.
Sure. You mean like my first home or my first rental property home?
Well, I think you bought your first home at 19.
I did. Yes, that
Yeah,
was
so that's your homestead home,
it was. Yeah,
right?
at the time. Yeah, I mean, I rented somewhere. I moved out when I was about just over 18 years old and had a little apartment that was a room in a house basically. And even things like wanting to paint the walls or I didn't like the carpet and thinking about like I literally just felt like I was throwing money away every month on rent
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to do what I wanted to do. And so at the time, this was things weren't as crazy as they got at one point in real estate. So I was able to get financing no problem at 19 years old.
Yeah,
um,
that is, I mean, that is impressive.
yeah. So it helped. I had been with a, Gannett, which was the company I worked for before doing short-term rentals or anything real estate for a couple of years by that point. I started there when I was 15 years old. So that helped. I had like a steady job at 19. And then, yeah, I just from there kind of got the itch and was able to turn that house and did a lot of work to it while we were in it, made it cute. Plus the market grew. And so I think 2 years, just about 2 years after I bought it, I resold it and made almost a six-figure profit on that. And I was 21, so I did a lot of stupid things with that. Bought a new car. Yeah. And then I did put a lot, obviously, into the next house and fix that up. But then the market crashed, 2008 rolled around, and I had planned to kind of live in that house and do the same thing. And yeah, the market crashed. So I barely broke even on that house when we sold it. And we were there for almost 8 years. And it just kind of scared me. So I kept on the corporate path. I felt like that was a bit more steady and secure. And it really wasn't until I realized that that wasn't steady and secure because I got laid off that I started thinking, really considering the whole real estate investing thing again.
So you bought your first one, you did really well on,
Yeah.
and you decided to buy a second one
Yes.
and you lost money on it.
I broke even.
You
So I
broke
didn't
even.
make
Okay.
money.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you gained a ton of experience from it, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
And you shy away from real estate until you
I
realize that you want to control your own destiny.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. And one of my best friends, her dad has a lot of real estate. He also does commercial real estate and is a developer where we're from in Florida. And he used to always say, the only way to real wealth is through real estate. And I was always like, yeah, 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 and he kind of like always referenced like you would do so well, you would do so well. And then we moved to Nashville for my job with Gannett, and about 8 months in, I got laid off. And so, well, yeah, I took a buyout essentially. And I remember thinking, and me and my husband talking, like, we'll never be here again. Like we had just moved here with this company. We used all of our savings to buy something up here in Nashville. And so once I got a new job, which was, a few months later, we pretty quickly started thinking about our plan B. And we found a house that we knew we were going to use it as an investment. But it had two homes on the property. And so our goal was, if something ever happened again, we could live in one of the houses and rent the other one out and be mortgage free. Or if we ever chose to want to do that, if we decided to say, screw you, and one of us wants to leave a job, we had that option. And really that was the intent behind the house, is just like, let's cover the mortgage until then and know that we have this option if we need it. And then one of the houses we did as a short-term rental. And, I mean, I think the first weekend we rented, we had almost covered our mortgage for the house. And so we were like, okay, and started making money. And then, I mean, we were both working full time, so we didn't need that money to live. So we just kind of kept taking that money and putting it into more and more and more. And then eventually had to make the decision that I couldn't do both things. So
Yeah.
once we hit, I think I had 5 properties and also was dealing with some stuff. My grandpa was sick in Florida. I wanted to be there. And so the timing was right to step away from my job and do this full time.
So tell us more of how did you get into short term? At first you were kind of flipping, I call it flipping, right? You did.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you bought a duplex where you guys.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's not technically a duplex, but it's like a house with a guest house out back, basically.
Okay.
In Nashville, we call them a dadu. It's
Okay.
accessory dwelling unit, essentially.
So Nashville just have their own term on certain things.
We have our own, a lot of things. Yes. Here in Nashville.
Well, I have yet to visit, and that's on my list.
Oh yeah. You need to come visit. I know some great places you can stay.
Well, yeah. So let's get back. How did you get from buying real estate to go, I'm going to do short-term rentals? This episode is brought to you by Buzz Vacation Rentals, a premier property management company in Houston and Galveston area. Give Buzz a call at 281-549-8432 to learn more about their rent guarantee program, or check out their website at listwithbuzz.com. Now back to the Real Estate Baller Show.
Yeah. Well, so part of it was because if we wanted to have that fallback plan, right, we didn't want to have to kick a renter out, right, and deal with if somebody's in there long term and we decide we need to or want to live in that house, then we're dealing with, honoring a lease and all of that. The other thing is my same friend whose father always was trying to push me into real estate, she had a long-term rental, and that poor girl, I mean, she had, I think, 3 different tenants. And if you described nightmare tenants, she had it all happen. She had somebody die in there. She had, nightmares. And so that was always really why I shied away from wanting to rent out in the first place. And I'm also a major control freak, and I couldn't imagine just, turning over my home and expecting somebody else to take care of it. And even though it's an investment, that was just how I felt about it.
Yeah.
I also am a pretty creative person and, like to decorate houses and things like that, just for myself.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I mean, maybe we can just try this. I have a background in, dealing with customers like that. So I can probably handle the guest thing, and the rest will just be fun, and we'll see how we go, And so that was how we decided on it. I mean, it was just sort of like a whim. We'd also, at the time, we'd only been living in Nashville for, I guess, 3 years. And I mean, Nashville sort of, came to be very popular around that time. And so we were in a condo, and I mean, everybody that we'd ever known, long distance, cousins, whatever. Oh, we're coming through Nashville. Can we come stay with you? And I loved hosting. I never got to do it in Florida because all of our family was from there, and so that was sort of an outlet for that too. And ironically, it all just worked out. I ended up loving it and loved the dealing with the guest part and everything 99% of the time. And so it was just totally unintended, but worked out well.
So when you started out, you handled everything by yourself.
Yeah, we had a cleaner at the time, but other than that, yeah, I did everything by myself,
From booking to answering to inquiries, everything.
Yeah.
All right.
I even would go on my lunch hour and check the properties after the cleaner and set up for the guests.
So you had a full-time job at the time too?
Yes. Yep. And it was a travel job. I led our international division for the media company that I was with at the time. So I would kind of, again, I didn't start this like to make money, right? It was just cover the mortgage and whatever. So, I mean, I would block out the house if I knew I was going to be out of town, my husband at the time lived really close to the property, worked really close to the property. And so if I knew I was going to be gone and he was available, we'd let it book. But if it was something where I was going to be gone, I would just block the nights out, just because I always wanted to go in after the clean and set up and everything like that. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm just like, let's take a breath and
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get from one to you have 7 homes now?
We have 6 now.
6.
Yeah. So we had one for about a year, then we got 2, and then about a year and a half after that, we bought 2 more at the same time. And then just 2 years ago, we bought our last property, which is just outside of Nashville in a small town called Leapers Fork. So totally different experience. We're on 12 acres, totally secluded. It takes us 25 minutes to drive to the grocery store from here versus in our Nashville properties, you could walk to a grocery store from any of our properties in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, so that was our last property that we added. And it's now our best performing property. I mean, I was so worried when COVID hit. I remember thinking like, what have we done? Like we're screwed. We just bought this property. We had closed on it in July, but it took us until October to get it renting.
Yeah.
And then of course winters are, slower, and then things started canceling mid-March. So that was interesting. And it was about 2 weeks of just cancellations nonstop. And then our new property in Leapers Fork ended up being exactly what everyone wanted. And so it stayed booked nonstop and actually carried us through most of last year with COVID. So it's been our totally unintended best investment yet.
That's amazing. We were looking at something similar to that too, but we haven't pulled the trigger yet. Yeah. So every time you look at a new home and thinking about buying it, how do you go? I know you like process. You like to have system. So do you actually have a system and say, okay, I want to buy a new house and it has to fit into this box?
So I don't go looking for, I know areas, you know what I mean? Or I know like when we were looking, I knew I wanted to be in Leapers Fork, for instance. And then when we were looking for the properties before that, I knew I wanted something smaller. And so generally speaking, I kind of cast a much wider net. I think if you're trying to find something specific, you end up rolling out a lot of things that could work. So it's never like I've gone hunting for something specific other than like an area, you know what I mean? And then once I find something, I use all of the same tools that probably most people do, but I also sort of benchmark my existing properties to say, okay, this tool is projecting my existing properties at like 20% under what we actually do, then I'll go to the different listing sites and actually look at what people are listing for. What do their calendars look like for comparable homes? And then I really try to find something that like I can make unique about it or that it already is unique about it. For instance, our house out in Leapers Fork, there really isn't anything on the market like it. There are some that are smaller. There are some that are a lot larger. This was sort of just like a perfect mid-size house in the area. And so I thought, well, that might be a gap that we could fill.
How big is it, Megan?
It's only 3 bedrooms, but
it's on 12 acres.
It's on 12 acres.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a 2,600 square foot home. So it's big. It's got 2 living areas, nice kitchen, but we sleep out here 10 to 12 people, but a lot of times it's only 6 to 8 people coming, but we do max out. Like the family that just left yesterday was a 10 a 10-person booking, and we have an 11-person booking coming in after we leave.
So do you go in and say, okay, it's got a house and land. Do you create things for people to do when they're there?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, so obviously just outdoors is big here. A lot of people come to the area for the Natchez Trace Trail. They
Uh-huh.
want to hike. And so that is things that they can just go out and do. But, we got walking sticks, and I have outdoor games,
Mm.
and we have, nice outdoor furniture and a fire pit, and we have a 75-foot balcony, and we lined the entire balcony with rocking chairs.
Uh-huh.
So our whole thing was basically just a place for somebody to come and totally unplug and relax. Although we do have great Wi-Fi. I'm on it right
That's
now.
what, yeah.
So unplug, relax, or work from home. But yeah, so there's a little bit of that, but most people, especially right now, people have used it as like a meeting point with family that they haven't seen in a
Yeah.
year or so, and they're just camping out at the house. So cooking every meal here mostly. And we have, like, I'm sitting right now, I have a reading room. We have two little nooks that have bay windows. And
Mhm.
so we've got books lined up all around. So I guess a little bit of that, but for the most part, I think most people just want to be outside hiking and doing some of the outdoor activities nearby.
Okay, so you don't necessarily like build things outside on your land.
Not yet. We had
Okay.
been talking about a pool,
Yeah.
but then COVID and,
Right.
the cost of it just is kind of like, to justify that right now doesn't make sense. But I think eventually we'll probably add a pool and a hot tub out here.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of timing and being able to actually get somebody to do it.
Well, so I was browsing your website. Uh, I go to your website every now and then, but I was browsing it earlier today, and I was so impressed by how well put together all your colors, all your decors, and everything. So let's talk
Thank you.
about that. Like, how
Yeah.
much effort goes into that? I know you love doing it,
Yeah.
but beside that, what's your budget for the home, and
Yeah.
how much effort go into all that?
It's a lot of planning. I will say our first house that we did, I had no clue what I was doing, and it definitely, I mean, it was cute and everything,
Mhm.
but I didn't really think through the function of things because I had never done this before.
Mhm.
And I was thinking at it from like, okay, well, I need this in my personal home, or people are on vacation, they're not going to use this, right?
Right.
And it really has been now several years of figuring out the questions like, oh, do you have a can opener? Oh, do you have this?
Yeah.
And figuring out what people actually do need in the home, which is
Mhm.
everything because everyone's different, right? So, yeah, it's a lot of planning because you have to not only think about design and what's going to market well, you also have to think about the function and what's going to be comfortable. And one of the things that, the examples I always give to clients or other people is when you're advertising your home, most people are going to find you on some sort of listing site or even Google, right? Like they're not
Mhm.
just going to, for me, type in southboundstays.com, like
Yeah.
we're going to be compared and it's going to most likely be done online.
Right.
So your competition is an inch above or below you, right? They're
Right.
not the house across town. It's whoever's an inch above or below you. And what are you going to do in that little 1 by 1 box to stand out, right? That
Right.
picture or pictures. I actually rotate my pictures often, my cover photos. But what are you going to do in that box to stand out and not look like every other property, right?
Mhm.
And I think that was probably one of the first mistakes that I made in the beginning was I did everything in neutrals because I was thinking of, real estate sales, right?
Yeah.
And the reason people do things in neutral is because they want you to focus on the architecture of the home and all that and not
Uh-huh.
the furniture, not the decor.
Uh-huh.
And short-term rentals live somewhere in the middle, right?
Uh-huh.
Of real estate and selling for real estate and then selling like a personal home, right? Or
Mhm.
sorry, selling for investment and selling for a personal home. And so Yeah. So I always say design with marketing in mind, right? Like, what
Yeah.
am I going to either put in both from an amenities or feature that I can say we have consistent across the home, or what am I going to do to stand out in a picture in that little box? As far as budget goes, I mean, yeah, in the beginning, I was just kind of throwing things against a wall. Like I had no idea how much it cost. I mean, we probably furnished our first house for like $5,000, but within
Mhm.
the first month, had to spend another 2 or 3 grand to just to get it, like stupid things. Like I didn't even think to buy more than one set of linens, and make sure all the linens are the same, because if you took a picture with a white comforter, they want a
Yeah.
white comforter when they come in. And
Right.
I would just go buy what was on sale at Target. So I had a gray one and a pink one and a white one. And like, so things like that ended up costing more in the long run because I was having to replace them. I
Yeah.
always joke like I had a bed skirt on a bed, and now, I mean, I wouldn't be caught dead. You wouldn't be caught dead with that, just because someone's going to spill something on it, and then you're going to have to figure out how to change it between turns and
Uh-huh.
get a cleaner lift it up to look under the bed. So it's design, but it's turnover efficiency. And like I said, it's all about marketability. But budget wise, I mean, I always, when I'm looking at what to do to the house itself,
Hmm.
I always try to think of it from resale value, right?
Okay.
And what can you do that is going to add value to potential guests,
Hmm.
but also value to the home,
Hmm.
and not deter somebody who may want to eventually buy that home to live in.
Mm.
And I say that because I see this a lot where people go crazy on a house to
Hmm.
make it a vacation rental,
Hmm.
but it's in a residential area. It's something that may not be sold as a vacation rental the next time.
Hmm.
And they sort of like make money that if they had to sell that house, they're never going to get it back. And so that's how I try to approach things with putting money into the house itself. And then from a design perspective and furnishings perspective, I mean, I sort of know these are the things I'm buying. I have a running list. I use Asana, and I have a budget for every category, from TVs to mattresses to appliances, linens, and then decor is just sort of, I could probably spat off what I need to spend per room on one of my own properties
Hmm.
pretty quickly, just because now I've done it so much.
What's your normal cost per room?
So per room, I usually say an average of 5 to 7,500, only because, and that's not even per room, that's more per area. So that's
Okay.
bedroom, that would be kitchen, outdoor is usually more, just because outdoor furniture is stupid expensive, unless you're
Right.
looking at just like a small patio or something. And obviously, that also depends on the type of property. So
Hmm.
we have 3 studios that are 400 square feet studios, that the building they are in is like an old 1950s building, and it's cute and everything,
Yeah.
but like it's not a luxury property.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to put the same quality of linens and even the same coffee maker in there that I'm going to put at my higher end Leapers Fork home. So that's why I always have a range. And depending on like the level that I'll be renting that at and the level of the home itself is where I decide what range I'm going to fit within.
Okay. That's really impressive. So do you actually have a storage to keep all the furniture, or do you just buy them as you go?
Well, I do have a massive storage unit that I'm getting rid of because I buy furniture when I see it on sale. But then
Uh,
now I just have a storage unit full of furniture that I've never used because, I'm usually, if I have like a vision of something, it's like, oh, I need this. I need a blue chair or a blue sofa. And I'm not just going to have that laying around in storage. So now I'm much more intentional about buying things specifically for a space.
Oh, you're not renting any of the furniture. You buy them all.
No, no, I buy it all. I mean, I've seen that,
Yeah.
and if it works for you, it works for you. But, again, my goal is to stand out, and a lot of things that I've seen that where you can rent the furniture,
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful,
Hmm.
but it's very neutral. And,
Yeah.
it just to me doesn't really give that oomph that I would be looking for in a space.
So your decorating ideal thinking is more of what pop, or is it more of what's comfortable?
Well, it's finding the balance of both. I mean, I'm not going to put something in just because it looks fun if it's not
Uh-huh.
comfortable. I mean, I think about things like, even sleeper sofas. Like a lot of sleeper sofas are kind of shallow.
Yeah.
And so they don't really feel comfortable to sit in as a sofa. So I'm always looking for sleeper sofas that have a depth of 38 to 42 inches, just because I know that's a standard sofa depth and
Hmm.
you'll actually be comfortable in that, but then also still be able to use it as a sleeper. And so those are the types of things that I look at when, it's not just finding a blue chair. Is that blue chair deep enough to actually like have somebody sit in and put their legs up versus like a dining chair that's sitting in the middle of the living room because you need that extra seat to meet your seat count? So yeah, you definitely have to find the balance of both of those things.
So most of your homes, are they smaller, bigger?
Yeah, most of them are smaller. Actually, all of them are smaller except our Leapers Fork house. So we have 3 studios that are 400 square feet each.
Hmm.
And then the property where we have 2 homes, one of the homes is a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,100 square feet. And
Hmm.
the other is 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 600 square feet. So I've had to get very creative in utilizing space and, maximizing guest count, but while maintaining comfort.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I know a lot about sleeper sofas.
Do you have sleeper sofa in most
We
of your unit
do
homes? Okay.
everywhere. Yeah. It's the only, for us, it's literally the only way we would be able to fit extra guests like in our studios. We have a queen bed and then we have a sleeper sofa that opens to a queen. But there really wouldn't be another alternative. Like even in our mattress, there wouldn't be anywhere to blow it up?
Mm.
So basically where the sofas are, the sleeper sofas can open and the ottomans can basically flip up to the side to get out of the way.
Okay. What are your thoughts on bunk beds?
Oh, I hate bunk beds. I mean, sometimes they're an evil necessity. I also think for homes that are really catering to families, they're
Mhm.
super fun,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
they add extra liability. They really slow down your cleaners. So it is pretty much my last ditch. If I have to do it, I'll put in a sleeper sofa or sorry, a bunk bed, but otherwise I'll put a sleeper sofa or even like I'm actually doing a house for a client right now that legally in Nashville they could sleep 10 people, but we're only going to max it out at 8, but we're going to go more luxury so that they
Mhm.
can kind of get the rate they would anticipate a 10 count without packing the home. And so what we're doing there is we're switching from full over full bunks, which were being advertised as each level sleeping 2. So like the bunk room, the prior owners were saying they could sleep 4 people. I mean, yeah, you technically can, but like, are you gonna?
Well,
So
yeah.
we're gonna do kings in all of the bedrooms and each bedroom has an ensuite bathroom. So we're going to market that as sort of like 3 en-suites, all king. And then we even found a king sleeper sofa for the living room.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, so that'll be kind of just a different direction instead of bunks. Whereas the other homes in that same neighborhood that are short term rentals, some of them have like 4 bunk beds in 1 bedroom. So it was a way to stand out and go
Yeah.
after more like couples that are traveling together, so 3 sets of couples, than the bachelor crowd, which is what the other houses are doing in that complex.
And you guys get a lot of that type of guests, right?
Yeah.
The bachelorette party or bachelor parties.
Yeah, not me personally,
Yeah.
just because my properties are smaller and our bigger property is, an hour outside of Nashville, 45 minutes, 2 hours. So, bachelorettes aren't staying out here to drive into Nashville, but in Nashville, yes, it's definitely a huge bachelor market.
It is a lot of risk for us, with short-term rentals, because you got the cost to buy the home, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to furnish the home. And that's
Right.
what we're talking about, another 10, 15, 20,000 upfront.
If not more. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Our 3-bedroom home, I think we spent 50 or 60,000 on, and that's money that, if you had to sell, like, you're not going to get that back, right? As soon as you buy a
Right.
new sofa, it's like driving a new car off the lot. It's never going to be worth what it was the day you bought it. And that's just how it is. So there's a lot of risk. And I think that it's also a big surprise for people too. They didn't, they think like, oh, I'll go to IKEA or I'll go on Facebook Marketplace. And yeah, like, you can definitely do some of that. And it's not like I'm going out putting super high-end furniture in places 90% of the time, but it's all the little things that add up. It's making sure that you have, like, little things that people don't think about, like silverware, right? I'll see people, if they sleep 4, they buy, utensils for 4. Well, that means that if somebody's eating at the house, they're going to have 2 dishes every day so everyone can eat, right? Like, so you really need like a set of 8 if at minimum, and those are the things that really add up, linens, where you're having to buy 3 sets of everything.
Right.
So there's 1 out, 1 in the wash, 1 in backup. And so I feel like a lot of people get into it and are just totally surprised by how much they have to spend up front.
Yeah.
And so they either don't do it and they kind of, halfway do it. And then they're not as successful because it's showing up in reviews. It wasn't comfortable, or it didn't have this or whatever. And so I think that's where people make a big mistake. And I think if you do it right and invest in it right, you'll get that money back, right, through your rental revenue. But there certainly is a risk involved with that. And you have to be wise about it to help alleviate that risk as much as possible.
So how long does it take you on the average to recoup that money from the furnishing?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? I mean, like, we kind of depreciate everything, So, I mean, it's going to be over a few years if you're just looking at it like that, But and I mean, I look back, like, some of our properties, I mean, we made it back in the first year, but not all of them. So I think it just depends on the property and the level that you're putting in. And then of course your rental rate.
Okay. And how often do you have to replace them?
Oh, I mean, so like true furniture, it's pretty rare, you know what I mean? But like a lot of the smaller stuff, your rugs, your dishes, things like that. And not that you're replacing all of them, but you're kind of replacing as you go. I mean, I'm going through right now. I mean, I'm at my property, staying out here to do inventory and everything. And, it's been, I would say, probably every 6 months to a year that you're replacing rugs and some of the smaller items in the house. But like, it's been 2 years and our furniture is totally fine and has several years left. Thank goodness.
So what's next for you?
I don't know. And I'm okay with that. No, I mean, I think we definitely would like to buy a few more properties. I have always said, no matter what, I don't want any more than like 8 to 10. I could definitely see us buying another house out here in Leaper's Fork. We love it out here. It does well. It's a totally different experience. And I think it's important, like, to diversify.
Mm-hmm.
And I never realized how important until we went through 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And, our places in Nashville, I mean, people come for a ton of different things, but it was still vacation, work, things that
Mm-hmm.
all stopped during COVID.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about something you're really passionate about. I like being in Nashville, you guys have to deal with all these regulations and restrictions and all of that. And I,
Yes.
I know you're a big advocate on that. So let's cover
Yes.
that a little bit. Tell us
Sure.
about what you do.
Oh,
I
what?
mean,
Yeah.
what got you started, if you can,
Yeah.
you know?
It's funny because I definitely have never been one to like get involved in stuff like that. And it was something that when I got involved, I never really thought it was political. I now know it's very political. It
Mm-hmm.
just seemed like, why would I not be able to do this with my property? Like, it
Right.
doesn't make any sense. This is my property. And as long as I'm not, as long as those people aren't bothering other people,
Mm-hmm.
then why is it a problem? Especially when I've lived next door to long-term renters who have been a problem and there's nothing you can do about that. So
Yeah.
why would this be any different?
Yeah.
And so I had just started with our first property, and Airbnb hosted an event in Nashville. That was when they were introducing co-hosting. That's how long ago this was.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there, and the NASTRA president at the time was there at the meeting and said, "Hey, by the way, I know you guys came to like meet Airbnb and all, but just so you know, the city's thinking about passing some pretty strict laws, and we're going to have a meeting about it. You should all come." And so I went, and I don't know how else to say this. And we kind of joke like the meeting was a total cluster. Like, people were arguing and like it was very awkward. And I wrote an email to the board at the time and just said, listen, like, I was very turned off by what I saw. And I think this is an important issue, but I don't think you're going to get people basically by being this way. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
also not one to complain and not do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I help you? My background is, in marketing and advertising. Like, can I help with positioning? Can I help with how to reach people? Like, what can I do? And I listed a few ideas, and the president at the time called me, I think within a few hours, and was like, we'll take any help we can get. So I started drafting emails for the organization, but they were coming like from her basically,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine because I did not want to be like in the limelight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so that's how I got involved.
Yeah.
And the more I got into it and the more I saw how political it was, it just really lit me on fire, and it was so frustrating. And seeing the narrative that played out of, oh, these are all out of state investors who are just hosting party houses in the neighborhoods. I mean, it's literally the same narrative
Mm-hmm.
everywhere you go
Yeah.
and every city council meeting you hear, because that's what's being fed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the data, there's no market that supports short-term rentals being party houses or anything like that.
Correct.
And so, and meanwhile, I was meeting other short-term rental owners, and I knew who these people were. And most of them were my neighbors or,
Mm-hmm.
living in the same area. And so then it sort of became like, okay, this is really, just not right that the city is doing this, but then also sort of like a mama bear need to like want to protect these people, from new laws, and feeling like I had somebody and, to fight for beyond just myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was sort of how I got into it. And the president at the time, I wasn't even on the board for about a year and a half. And finally a board position opened up, and it happened to be the vice president position.
Yeah.
I attended one board meeting. A week later, the president resigned. I stepped in as the interim president, and that was, I don't know, 3 years ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
So I always joke, I'm not actually the president. I'm still the interim president. So, But my friend who also managed my properties for me while I was gone,
Mhm.
she is VP of NASTRA now, and she's really been running NASTRA for the last 6 months while I've been out and has been doing an amazing job with that. So the last anything you've seen from the last 6 months, I can't take any credit for because she's pretty much done it all, including having to almost completely rebuild our entire board. So
Well, I'm in Houston, so I faced some of the challenges that you were facing as well, but it's
yeah,
more on the HOA level.
yeah, yeah,
The city, the council, I think they're real friendly,
right.
with short-term rentals, but it's
Yeah,
the small HOA that are not. And it's a lot
yeah,
of time, I think they were misinformed.
right. Oh,
And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and there's also a small group of, I say, irresponsible hosts,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. I mean, you can advocate for fair laws without being an advocate for irresponsible owners. And I think that's something that we all have a responsibility to do is to be responsible, right?
Mhm.
I used to say this in my old life all the time, like in corporate America, like just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it applies now, right? Like, I go back to just because you can put 4 bunk beds in a room doesn't mean you should, right? Not only are the guests not going to be comfortable, but you're sort of attracting a certain kind of guest. Is that really what you want to bring in to the neighborhood? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just have to think through those things and be a responsible neighbor, a responsible homeowner. If you can't do it, then hire a property management company that can, who can be more involved. But I feel like, I can't tell you how many times we heard the complaint, like, I don't even know who to call. Like, there's a problem at this house and I don't even know who to call. And to me as an owner, I mean, that should be your first order of business is knock, knock, knock on the neighbor's door. If you're not there, have somebody do it for you. Like,
Mhm.
this is my home. This is who you call if you have a problem, and they can end up being some of your best advocates. I mean, I think of the neighbors at our East Nashville house, which was our first house. They
Mhm.
would call and be like, "Hey, it's about to snow, and like, do you want me to go loosen your faucet or whatever?" I mean,
Yeah.
so it started as like, just so you know, I'm here if you need me, and then
Yeah.
they ended up being like, just super helpful because they knew we weren't at the house and stuff like that. So I think it's very possible to have relationships and be a good neighbor as a short-term rental owner, but you do have to be intentional about it. And I think all of us need to help educate other people to be that way.
Absolutely. Totally agree. God, it's like you have a lot of information and lots of good stuff.
Thank you.
So, what is the one thing people might be surprised to learn about you?
Ooh, I don't know, honestly. I'm kind of an open book. And so that sort of makes it hard for like there to be any surprises, I think, I would say probably like the biggest thing is most people think that I'm just this huge, like very politically inclined person because of all that I do in the advocacy realm. And it's probably the most uncomfortable thing that I do. I do it because it's important and I do it because I care about it and I care about all of the other people it impacts. But I definitely don't enjoy it, if that makes sense. I don't enjoy being controversial with our city council. I don't enjoy the conflict that comes with that. It's probably my least favorite thing, but it's also the most important thing. But it's what a lot of people, if they've heard of me before, they've probably heard about it from that.
Mhm.
And so I think they probably just assume it's something that like, I've always been that way. And I haven't been, I just sort of fell into it, to be honest.
Well, your reputation exceeds you, and you very impressive. I mean, doing all these wonderful things for yourself, your family, and the community. So we
Thank you.
appreciate you for being a forward thinker and just being you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
So as we wrapping up, how does the audience get in touch with you, Megan?
Well, probably my websites are the best way. So our rentals website is just southboundstays.com.
Mm-hmm.
And my design and consulting website is hospitalitycreator.com. And then if they're looking for anything advocacy Nashville related, that's NASTRA.org. So it's NASTRA.org.
It was a really great conversation with Megan today. Thank you. And thanks for watching. If you found value in this show, please give us a thumb up, leave us a comment below, or give us a shout out on social media using the hashtag REBallers. If there's other topic that you want to hear about, shoot us an email to info@reballers.com. We can't wait to hear more from you. So thank you and see you next time.